everyone. Today I'm going to be looking at some helpful tools and apps that I use as a photographer to actually help me when I'm out in the field. But before I forget, if you would please click the like and subscribe button, that would help me out a lot on the channel. So in this video, we're going to look at where to find maps of the area where you're going out to do some landscape photography. We'll include in the UK OS maps, and we'll also talk about an equivalent in the US, which is USGS maps. And something that you can use anywhere you live is Google Earth. And then we're also going to look at Photopills, which is a really useful application as a photographer. I use Photopills all the time for a variety of different. And there's another app I find very useful called Clear Outside. If you're going off and you're going to shoot a landscape, Clear Outside will let you look and see what the sky is going to look like, maybe the sunset and that sort of thing. We'll talk about that. So let's get started. So in Photopills, whenever we go in, I'm not going to go. This is not going to be a detailed tutorial on Photopills. I'm just kind of doing an introduction of the things that I use in Photopills. In Photopills, we have Academy, which has the user guide, the video tutorials, how-to articles, all that kind of stuff. And then over here we have My Stuff, which if you're using it to post photos or do points of interest. And so points of interest, I can come in here, and this is up in the Peak District, or the Yorkshire Dales, sorry. You can see there's a point of interest here, Hardroff Force, which is a waterfall. Up here we've got Wainwath Force, which is another waterfall. Building over here, a castle. These are the points of interest, and so you can create your own points of interest and list them, or if you've got a trip that you're planning, you can make a point of interest list, which you can do on a regular map program, but they've incorporated. If you think of Photopills isn't really just an application, it's more like a toolbox, a tool. And here we have a planner, right, where you can easily plan images, that you want to take. Now, I use the planner all the time. I mean, all the time. This is Normanton Church out on Rutland Water in the UK. And you can see on here, I've marked it, and we can move this point around to wherever we want to move it. And today, the sunrise was at 5:56, and this yellow line is the line that the sunrise is going to hit this building at. And then your moon rising over here after the sun comes up at 10 o'clock. So if you wanted to plan that into your photo, you would, you'd get an angle that you're working with. And then over here, the dark blue line off on the left is the moon setting. And then this orange line is the sunset at 8:09 this evening. And so you can basically tell the angles that you're dealing with. And then there's a little graph down on the bottom showing you your light and dark. And so this is set right now for 1:40 in the morning. And so it's at nighttime, but you can see the blue hour and the golden hour and plan that where that light's going to be shining on a particular spot pretty easily, which is very convenient. And then once you plan all this out, you can click in here and save it, which goes back to that first place I showed you where we save our plans, and you can save it as a plan or a point of interest or whatever you want to do. And so down at the bottom, there's a couple other things which are augmented reality, and I'm going to show you those in the main section, which are very useful. This is the planner, and this is one of my favorite pills in the Photopill. Inside of here, we have a sun planner, so it shows you when the sun's going to be up, when the golden hour is, when sunset is, when blue hour is, and you can change this from day to day and go into settings, and I can set my time and my location, or I can drag myself around the map. Then I can do all that sort of thing. Change the calendar view, and then once again, we've got the augmented reality. Just another little tool that makes your life a little easier when you're out in the field if you're doing landscape photography or whatever the case may be. There's also a moon where you can see the moon when it's going to rise, when it's going to set. So if you're doing like moonscapes or you're doing astrophotography, you have that. Exposure setting. In here we have a test setting. So f5.6 at 1/640th of a second at ISO 100. If we look down at the bottom where equivalent settings are at, if I add a 9-stop neutral density filter onto my lens, to be able to get the same exposure, basically a 6-second exposure at ISO 100. Now I can change this over to shutter speed and it'll go through, and I want to keep the same shutter speed. Now I have to basically close my filter down to my aperture down to f16 with ISO 100 to do the same thing that I'm doing at 5.6. And so, or my ISO, I can, if I want to keep the same ISO, I'm going to change my shutter speed and my aperture. And so I can see all that in there. I can change these values and do my calculations. So if I'm shooting a waterfall or I'm doing something where I want to slow my shutter speed down, it helps you do those calculations. And here we have depth of focus. So depth of focus, this is your calculation where I tell it what camera I'm using. In my case, a Nikon D750. I'm shooting at 105 millimeters at f16, and my subject is 5 meters away. And by the way, under settings, you can change this from imperial to metric and back and forth. I have a hyperfocal distance of 23 meters, a hyperfocal near limit of 11 meters. My depth of focus near limit's 4.12 meters, and far away at 6.35 meters. If I'm shooting birds or wildlife or sports where people are moving and I need to figure out my depth of focus, maybe it's a portrait you're shooting and you want to be able to have good bokeh in the background, but you want to make sure you capture your entire subject, this depth of focus calculations are kind of what you're going to use. So you can see in here, if we go through here, we change this right down to f5. We are changing our depth of focus. I make this 100 meters away, and we do that. Basically, our depth of focus at 105 millimeters, 100 meters away at 73 meters, we're at hyperfocal, so we're good. So very useful. You can change and select from a variety of cameras, and it will go and calculate that for you, which is a really useful thing to be able to do, so you don't have to go through and figure it all out for yourself. And your field of view, same thing with your camera type. I'm selecting the my focal length down here. Let's say I'm going out to like 600 millimeters. There's no way I'm going to be shooting something 500 meters away. Let's say this is 100 meters away. Well, now it shows you my field of view. If I'm shooting something 100 meters away in landscape mode at 600 millimeter focal length, how much of that subject am I going to get? So, and I have a horizontal field of view of 5.98 meters and a vertical field of view of 4 meters. Depth of focus table, just a table with the depth of focus like we were showing before. Your hyperfocal table is the same thing. Now, night augmented reality is pretty cool. So this is daytime, but if you were doing astrophotography or you were doing something, this gives you a virtual reality appearance of what is in the sky. So if I need to be able to find the Milky Way, I can do that. And I'm able to set the time to whenever I want to set the time for. So if I was like at a place in the middle of the afternoon and I wanted to see what was going to be up in the night sky when I came back at 11 o'clock at night, I could go ahead and set this up and then plan my shoot in the daytime when I can see what I'm doing. When I come back out at night, I'm ready to go. Meteor showers, it just shows you which meteor showers are going to be present. So people who go off and shoot meteors coming out of the sky, I don't do that, but astrophotographers sure would. Star trails, same thing. We're basically setting up which direction we're facing, what our angle is that we're going to be shooting at, so 45 degrees, and we're doing a 2 hour and 59 minute exposure. This is what the star trails are going to look like on that. And let's say I want to bring that down. I only want to shoot an hour exposure. Well, that's what you're going to get if I'm facing north, if I'm facing south. Spot stars, what is your maximum exposure time if you're shooting the night sky before you're going to have star trails? So what's your angle that you're shooting at? Your f-stop. So if we're shooting, let's say we're going to try to open up this aperture as far as we can to get as much light in, and we're shooting at 50 millimeters. If we're using the 500 millimeter rule, supposedly we can shoot for 10 seconds without having to worry about star trails. If we open this up 28 millimeters, well, now we can get 18 seconds before we have to worry about star trails using the 500 rule. NPF rule is a little bit shorter. if you're an astrophotographer and you're shooting stars, it's a point of light, and you don't want to have that point of light move or it doesn't look very good. Time-lapse photography, basically you can come in here, tell it how long you want your video that you're going to use with this time-lapse that's going to go, how long the event's going to last. So I've got an event I want to have 30 seconds of video. The event lasts for 30 minutes. I'm going to shoot 25 frames per second in the final video. My shooting interval is 2.4 seconds. I'm going to shoot 750 images, and it's going 4 meg per image. And it's going to take me almost 3 gig for the storage for that. We've got a regular timer here, exposures, and you have the timer there. Your subject distance, so I'm shooting at 80 millimeters. 2 meter object width and a 2 meter height. I'm shooting in landscape mode. Well, I need to be 6.67 meters back to be able to capture the entire object with an 80 millimeter focal length on my D750. My focal length match, I don't really use this, but if you had 2 cameras and you wanted to match them up, you're able to set for camera 1 up here your subject distance, your f-stop, and your focal length, and it tells you what the equivalent is down here on your Rebel. So very good stuff here in Photopills. You can see over here under plans, I've saved the one plan for the Norman Church, so I can save that. Inside of that plan, I can save my photographs I shot on that particular item. I can save it as a point of interest. So that's Photopills really in a nutshell. Very useful application. The other application I use on my phone is called Clear Outside. And Clear Outside, what it does is if you look here in the top, and this is mainly what I use this for, in the top I can choose a time. And so today, my golden hour starts about a little before 6:30ish. And my moon comes up or setting about 7:30ish. But if I look under here, I've got this section here: total clouds, low clouds, medium clouds, and high clouds. So if I'm out and I'm shooting, if I'm shooting a sunset, my total cloud cover tonight's supposed to be pretty minimal, so I should actually have a really good sunset. And if you're looking for like those spectacular sunsets, which you want to have as a combination of as few low clouds, like 0 as possible, but then you're a little bit of medium cloud and a little bit of high cloud, maybe anywhere between 20 to 50 in like the high cloud, which gives you these high clouds that reflect the light off the sun, and it makes perfect sunset pictures. That's what I use Clear Outside for. And there's some other stuff out there. I mean, I can see fog. So if I wanted to catch fog, and I haven't actually used it for this, I just thought about this, but if I wanted to catch fog like in the forest, right, I should be able to come in here and see what my fog for this particular location. And right now it's set for Exeter and Devon, but I can change my location to wherever I want. So that's Clear Outside. That's an incredible, useful tool for photographers. My final tool that I use a lot, and here in the UK, it's OS Maps. And the United States, it's going to be USGS Map. I just have a subscription to GS Maps, so I can download any map I want on the go. I'm heading up to the Yorkshire Dales this weekend to do some waterfall chasing. And I can see on here, over here by Hardraw Forest, which is a waterfall. And I can see I've got a footpath that comes into here or over here, goes across this bridge down by where the waterfall's at. So I'm able to go through and figure out how I'm getting to locations. And then if I back off a little bit, if I'm shooting landscapes, I can look at these. And if you know how to read a map, you can figure out where is my high point. So I've got one up here that's 550 meters, 562 meters, which should provide, I mean, if I look back over here, I've got all these lines really close together. I should get a pretty good view back off of there if I can get on top of that hill, back over this village and cross this valley. Excellent planning tool. So all these tools that I showed you are tools that I use whenever I go out and do my photography. And the last thing I would suggest too is Google Earth is a great tool where you can go off and kind of get a general feel for an area before you even have to go out there, just to see what it's going to look like. And then you can check out your USGS or your OS maps, figure out how you're going to get in and out, what are good possible vantage points before you ever go out. And then if you're going out in the middle of the day when you wouldn't normally take pictures, you can go up and you can pull up Photopills with its planning and be able to look at what it's going to look like whenever you get back that evening to shoot the sunset or the following morning to shoot the sunrise. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a like and don't forget to subscribe below. That helps me out a whole lot on this channel, and I appreciate you coming and watching the video, and I look forward to seeing you next time.